I have a bit of an obsession with pro wrestling dream matches that never happened. If you take something like boxing, for example, there's no way Muhammad Ali versus Mike Tyson could have happened because they weren't fighting at the same time, so there's no way that match could have been made. But wrestlers' careers are typically very long, and they're nearly always presented as being in or near their prime. So it's much easier to take wrestlers from two different generations, put them in the ring together, and call it a clash of the titans. Because of that, it's always noteworthy when a match like that gets away from you. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. This is Remember Wrestling, and this is modern dream matches that never happened. And if you think I missed a match off the list, you can go check out my previous videos about dream matches, including WWE versus WCW, and one-on-ones that only happened in the Royal Rumble. Number 1. The Undertaker versus Seth Rollins. The three members of The Shield have dominated the wrestling discourse for about a decade now, and they've faced pretty much everyone that they can do across the industry. Even The Undertaker fell afoul of them in 2013, when he stuck around after WrestleMania 29 to have a couple of matches on a UK tour. There was a one-on-one match with Dean Ambrose that happened on SmackDown, and of course there was the disappointing WrestleMania main event with Roman Reigns. Seth, however, was the only one not to go one-on-one with the dead man, only getting to work with him in a 6-man tag on Raw, The Shield versus Undertaker, Kane and Daniel Bryan. Maybe Rollins could have had the best match of any of them, cunningly working around Undertaker to build heat, then bumping all over the place as he goes on a rampage for his comeback. But the opportunity passed us by. Number 2. John Cena versus Ric Flair. These two guys have been tied together so much over the last decade, what with Cena coming up on and eventually surpassing Ric Flair's world title record. They've shared the ring plenty for promos and such, but the only time they were in the ring together was the 2005 Royal Rumble, and incredibly, they did not interact once. For years, Rick and John were on different shows, and usually they were on the same side of the babyface heel spectrum. But I still fully believe they could have found a way to make it happen. You're telling me they couldn't have done a cross-brand Raw SmackDown episode of TV? I refuse to believe it couldn't have been done. Number 3. Daniel Bryan versus Kurt Angle. Now, if I'm being honest, we were never going to get a prime version of this match. While Bryan was King of the Indies and Ring of Honor World Champion, Kurt Angle was in WWE and TNA. The American Dragon, of course, made it to WWE in 2010, but by the time Kurt Angle came back in 2017, Bryan was in temporary retirement because of his head injuries. Then when Bryan made his return, Angle was only a part-time wrestler, and it was obvious he wasn't what he used to be. But sadly, there was a time where this match could have happened, and WWE missed it. Angle went on a retirement tour in 2019, wrestling the likes of Chad Gable, Apollo Crews, Samoa Joe, and AJ Styles. That would have been the time to run the Daniel Bryan match, who at that point was heel WWE champion and in the middle of the Kofi Mania feud. You can't seriously tell me they didn't have time to put in a Daniel Bryan match when Kurt Angle was spending time tapping out Jinder Mahal on Raw, but they didn't do it. One of a litany of mistakes WWE made in 2019. Number 4. Brock Lesnar versus Chris Jericho. And in another example of a guy who's wrestled absolutely everywhere and seemingly everyone, Y2J. When you look at why the Brock match didn't happen, it comes down to both men's schedules. Jericho was only wrestling sporadically before he went on his long run in 2016 and 2017, with The List and It and so on. And even then, Brock was showing up even less frequently, only for very specific programs with very specific opponents at very specific times. And Jericho just never fell into those plans. They shared a couple of Royal Rumbles where Brock just hit and suplexed Jericho a couple of times. And there was a segment in 2014 when Brock stared him down and just hit him with an F5. But that's it. Number 5. The New Day versus the Hardy Boys. Of all the matches on this list, this is the one that still has hope of happening. Two of the most decorated and popular tag teams in WWE history, and teams that are still going strong today. The New Day were the ones to introduce the Hardy Boys back to WWE when, as special guest hosts of WrestleMania 33, they added them to the tag title ladder match. Following that, they were either separated by the brand split or one of the teams was dealing with an injury. Then the Hardys left WWE separately of each other and spent some time in AEW before moving on to TNA. And it's because of TNA that this match can still happen. They're in a partnership with WWE at the moment, and plenty of crossover matches are happening, usually around NXT. With the New Day not doing much on Raw as heels at the moment, and the Hardys still beloved babyfaces, there's no reason why this match can't be put together as a one-off. So this is one of the rare times that I hope my words age poorly, because I still want to see the New Day versus the Hardy Boys. Number 6, Sasha Banks versus Rhea Ripley. For those of you wondering why there are so few women's matches on this list, it's because most of the women's wrestlers on the roster right now have already wrestled each other at least once. And granted, they may have come too soon, like Toni Storm versus Rhea Ripley. I mean, who wouldn't want to see Timeless versus Mami at this point? But they have gone one-on-one on television, so it is canon. One of the exceptions is Ripley versus the woman now known as Mercedes Moné. The only time they came together was as part of a massive tag match at Survivor Series 2019, and the work they did was predictably good, but that was as close as we got. Ripley stayed in NXT for a long time after that, and by the time she did come up to the main roster, there were different plans for her, plans that didn't involve Sasha Banks. I personally believe that we will see Sasha Banks in WWE again, so this is another one that could be taken off the list sooner or later. Rhea's also never wrestled Tiffany Stratton, but that one is nearly inevitable, so I didn't feel like putting it on the list. But remember how I said most women have wrestled every one of their contemporaries? Well, there is one exception to that, and her name is Ronda Rousey. There are 4 big one-on-one matches that never happened for Ronda Rousey. 2 in her first run, 2 in her second run. The first time around, we crazily never got the Becky Lynch match, but I've talked about that a lot in a previous video, so go check that out if you want to know more. We also didn't see Ronda versus Asuka, even though it was teased when Ronda made her debut and confronted the newly minted Royal Rumble winner. Then by the time Ronda came back, a new crop of top stars had made themselves known, chief among them Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley. Ronda briefly met both of them when she was going on a tear in the Rumble match, but the brand split struck again, with Belair and Ripley staying on Raw and Ronda being on SmackDown. And by the time Ripley came over to SmackDown to win the title, Ronda was focusing on the tag titles with Shayna Baszler, and shortly after she had left the company. And those are all the lost modern dream matches I can think of. Did I miss any out? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, share it around, and subscribe to the channel.